Hey guys, stock time, and Trading212 keep putting up the free share link even though they're not open. They said mid-January or early January to open, and we're in early February, so that's not very good, but you can try and sign up and sort of hope they get things open in early Feb. Looking at the portfolio, up about 5,000 this week, so not too bad. Mostly crypto stocks, so Argo and Hive both up about 1,000 in here, but also some gainers. Freeport McMoran doing quite well. The Chinese tech is sort of up 6-7% each for Baba and Baidu. So that's pretty good. Most of the gain coming from this portfolio, really. Some interesting sort of developments. The UK have increased their interest rates, sort of jumping ahead of the US, up to 0.5% now. But yeah, so the ISA is up about 700 quid, not too much happening in here. The ARC hasn't really moved. Some of the REITs are sort of a bit of a mixed bag, but largely sort of flat to slightly down. So it's not too bad. They tend to sort of be quite uncorrelated with everything else at the moment. As I say, Argo blockchain, 13% on the week, not too bad. Obviously, on the longer term, it's been coming right down, but yeah, fairly hopeful. The Bitcoin price did sort of rise quite a bit more after the UK close, so if that holds, should hopefully see another rise for Argo on Monday. And yeah, hoping sort of seeing more of their development in Texas starting to come together. They're getting the sort of big transformers in now after getting the sort of shell of the building together, so looking pretty good. All positive for sort of middle of the year. Still looking at June completion on that. The Bitcoin ETP obviously sort of had a spike yesterday with the move. Again, I think that's closed before sort of part of the gain, so that should see another gain on Monday because that's on the German exchange. So yeah, some of the, as I say, some of the REITs sort of couple of percent down, nothing too much. Bit of a gain for First Majestic, but silver still sort of struggling, seeing almost as a bit of risk on. Stag pretty flat. Sylvania Platinum down, which is a bit strange. Rhodium is flat, and Platinum and Palladium sort of a little up and down, but not a huge move. Guess this might just be sort of thin trading, people selling. Got to remember, it's, £250 million market cap, so it really doesn't take a lot to move. But yeah, still fairly happy with them. They did release their earnings. Can't remember if it was last week or the week before, and obviously don't look quite as good as last year, but still seems fine. Waiting on a rise in sort of rhodium price when the auto industry sort of gets out of the chip shortage, which it seems to be sort of edging out of. And yeah, as I say, the REITs sort of largely down slightly. So yeah, not a huge amount of movement in the ISA this week. The invest account similarly sort of hasn't seen a huge move, about 1,500 quid. You can see the invested drops off quite a bit. I will come back to that. That's because of Shell. So yeah, some nice gainers during the week. Airtel Africa continuing to do quite well. Still sort of monitoring that as to when to maybe take some profit or sell the whole thing. It's not really a long-term holding because I probably don't know enough about the industry, really. It was just a swap for BT. Alphabet released their earnings, kind of a knockout. They've announced a stock split, which is 20-1, which everyone's getting very excited about. Sort of mentioned before, I think stock splits are kind of a nonsense with everyone, well, most people being able to buy fractional shares now. So you don't have to buy one share for $2,800. So it's just a psychological thing. If you like the thought of it being $150, then yeah, it might be nicer for you, but there's going to be 20 times as many shares. So yeah, bit of a nonsense. I would take the good earnings far more importantly than the stock split. Apple pretty much flat for the week, but still holding up well, with Nasdaq sort of very, very rocky at the moment. Archer Daniels pretty flat. ASOS still sort of coming down. Boohoo sort of similar. Sort of ASOS kicking around the £20 mark for quite a while, or sort of the early £20. Hasn't really been at £20 all that much. Aviva doing quite well. Bank of Nova Scotia doing quite well. Just kind of stable ones that I hold. Broadcom sort of recovering a little bit. That was pretty good. That sort of came down with the semiconductors. So that's looking good. Earnings were fantastic anyway, so sort of expected them to come down really with the rest of the market, but yeah, fairly happy with them. Glencore back above £4. That's pretty good. Himax pretty flat for the week. Same with Intel. Not a huge amount of movement in any of these really. Lennar's down quite a little bit, which sort of looking on their figures, they're sort of 6 times forward cash flow by the looks of it, forward earnings. So don't know whether they're sort of signalling something about the US housing market maybe having a downturn. The institutions maybe know a little bit more, because 6 times cash flow for a strong business does seem a little crazy. Maybe they can ride their way out of it, or we'll have to sort of keep an eye on next earnings really, or maybe it's not going to bear out in the next one. It's going to be sort of over the next year. Interest rates going up as well, maybe sort of a little bit of a worry about mortgage holders, but it's only sort of going to be 1% or so. It's not a huge move. Lockheed fairly flat. Micron. Nintendo released their earnings and they look pretty good, even though sort of numbers down a little bit. It's slightly bad compared to 2020 and sort of early 2021, but yeah, sort of compared to pre-COVID, looks pretty good. And yeah, it's pretty much the best-selling, I think it is the best-selling home console now, the Switch, that they've ever done, beat the Wii, so I'm happy. Process. I'm wondering sort of what they're going to do. So it's a little bit convoluted. With Tencent owning 5% of Activision, that's now going to presumably get converted to Microsoft stock when that goes through. And I sort of thought Tencent presumably don't want to hold Microsoft stock because it's not really gaming. So wondering if Tencent will just dividend that out, sort of similar to what they've been doing with some of their other holdings, or whether they'd spend it. So Process presumably would be getting a comparable dividend. Be interesting to see what they do with that. Sega, interesting one, 9% up on the week, even though they're announced that they're shutting their arcade business. So a lot of people might not know of Sega. It's sort of, they've got the gaming side and then the sort of physical arcade side. And they also sell sort of the pinball and pachinko machines in sort of mainly in Japan. And they've also got a sort of resort and casino business, which they seem to be looking to sort of beef up at the expense of the arcade business. That's sort of not really having favour with the younger audience in Japan. So, yeah, closing that down and still sort of 9% up on the week. They are doing buybacks, so that may be sort of bolstering the price. And Shell, so interesting one. Trading212 have liquidated the old Royal Dutch Shell shares for sort of zero, I guess, and issued new Shell shares for zero. So it now shows your average buy price of zero and sort of 100% profit, which sort of throws out tax and that sort of thing. I'm wondering if they're going to fix this, but yeah, hopefully they do. But sort of more importantly, Shell above £20. So oil, sort of Brent oil, I think hit $93, and natural gas sort of was having a little bit of a lull, but has now sort of rocketed fairly high again, sort of well above pre-COVID levels. So yeah, above £20, but sort of they're still getting, I think their earnings came out and they're looking at sort of £30 billion pounds in free cash flow for the year on sort of 150 odd billion market cap. So I mean, it's gone up. I think I'm up 80%, and yeah, it's still looking great value. So I think this is one of those cases of let your winners run. I mean, I may trim a little bit if it carries on. Yeah, still trying to make a decision on that. Leave your thoughts in the comments if you've got an idea or what you're doing with Shell. I wouldn't sell just because it's 80% up. That's kind of not really the point. You sell when you think it's overvalued, in my opinion. And yeah, I think they've just gone up because oil and gas have gone up, and they haven't really got sort of any multiple expansion. So I'm sort of wondering if they spend all of this lovely free cash flow on green investment, then maybe they will start to get a bit of multiple expansion, sort of not being seen quite so much as a sort of dirty oil and gas producer. So there could be a bit of potential for PE expansion and earnings expansion. So yeah, pretty happy with Shell, but obviously it's a very large part of my invest portfolio now. Yeah, not a huge amount in any of these others. Mostly sort of 1-2%. TSMC sort of coming up a little back from the drop that it had. I sort of highlighted when they were at $141 and sort of rocketed down with the rest of the tech stocks and semiconductors. They're at the higher end of valuations, sort of higher forward PE than Google and Apple even. So not a huge surprise that came down. Tesla, sort of Nasdaq's been up and down, and Tesla does that. So yeah, it dropped down last week and that's recovered again. 9%. Tyson come down slightly, and Volkswagen down 4%. They haven't released their earnings. I couldn't really see any huge news sort of to come of this. So yeah, going to do a bit of digging into Volkswagen, see what's going on. Wonder it would be one that I'd be considering if I trimmed a little bit of the Shell position, maybe to add to this, because the delivery numbers still look pretty good for electric vehicles, so not bad. And they're sort of the large plant, their Zwickau plant, sort of looks to be basically finished, sort of ready for producing sort of full production EVs now. So yeah, pretty good. So that's the portfolio for the week. Yeah, as I say, $5,000 up. Not counting any chickens yet. It's still a bit of a rocky market. Sort of considering if the sort of crypto can continue to go up. I I'd probably be considering putting some more back into sort of gold and silver, expecting a bit of turbulence with the Fed sort of tapering and UK now tapering and interest rate rises and everything. Sort of last time they tried all of this back in 2018 and 19, they sort of caused some issues, let's say, and saw some fair old drops, and they then sort of started tailing it back. A lot of people sort of forget that they started sort of easing policy and reducing interest rates and everything before COVID started. So yeah, that's not what entirely caused it. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.